Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Akam. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And boy, do we have a lot to cover this morning. This is, I think, the only day this week where it's just you and I. No special guests, because tomorrow on the program, we'll be talking with former Congressman, current Assemblyman, Joe Sempolinski. He'll be zooming in live from Albany. We're going to talk to him about the New York State budget. Then on Wednesday, Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard will be joining us. And Thursday, Saritha Kamatareddy. She's running for Attorney General here in New York State as a Republican. So if you have any questions for our guests coming up, let me know. All right, first comment from a viewer coming in late. Early Sunday morning, saying good morning. Well, good morning to you. Fox Live reported that all but one of the protesters arrested in the New Jersey ICE protests were actually from New Jersey. Same with some colleges. I didn't catch the name, but American protesters were most of the protesters that were arrested were not even students, let alone from the state. Also, I want to point out something that occurred to me the other day. The fake news is akin to the Iranian and Russian propaganda machines. Therefore, not only are the fake news media guilty of being, as is obvious to those of us who have common sense, propaganda machines, but in a very real sense are insurgents who are actively involved in the attempt to introduce socialism and from there a communist regime into our government right here in the U.S. In honor of Charlie Kirk, prove me wrong. Thank you very much to that viewer. All right. Speaking of that, police arrested at least 20 protesters outside embattled New Jersey ICE Detention Center, Delaney Hall, on Sunday, last night, after they broke a new curfew imposed to stop the violent rallies from continuing for a third straight week, as the Department of Homeland Security vowed to show zero tolerance for rioters. Local and state police closed off a length of Dorormus Avenue, roughly a quarter mile around Newark's Delaney Hall, to stop crowds of protesters from reaching the Immigration Detention Center, and launched an all-out offensive against any unruliness. After cops announced a 9 p.m. curfew to encourage people to leave, the number of protesters dwindled to roughly 100. Police in riot gear then advanced into the crowd of naysayers while shouting, "Move in!" Cops fired off 2 rounds of tear gas towards protesters who yelled, "Give peace a chance," and "No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA," setting more people fleeing until roughly 50 protesters and members of the press were corralled into a tight circle. As those with press passes filed out of the group, officers swooped in and cuffed roughly 20 to 25 remaining protesters. Police didn't immediately confirm the exact number of arrests, but several arrests were made in front of a wall with graffitied, get this, "Kill ICE" across it. Footage posted by DHS captured the protesters flanked by officers in riot vests and helmets being hauled into Essex County Sheriff's Department buses. Another clip captured a man sitting and being dragged from behind by multiple officers who were standing in a barricade line with the department captioned, "Don't be this guy. If you riot, you will face the consequences. Law and order prevails. Zero tolerance for rioters," said DHS. Newark Mayor Ras Baraka instituted a 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew around Delaney Hall until further notice, following a series of intense, violent clashes between anti-ICE protesters and agents earlier this week. Individuals who violate the curfew will receive an initial warning, but will be removed and face possible legal action if they refuse to comply, Becerra said. Chaos has engulfed the immigration detention facility in Newark since at least May 22nd, after top Democratic officials, including New Jersey Governor Mickey Sherrill, raised concerns about inhumane conditions in the facility and the lack of visitation hours. Inmates inside reportedly have launched a hunger strike over the conditions. The Trump administration has countered that the standard of living at Delaney Hall, is higher than most U.S. prisons. There you go. Okay, there was your update. Hey, and we're going to talk about Iran here in just a moment. But I wanted to mention this because we talked about this last week, and this is that former CIA employee that had 300 gold bars, something like 30 Rolex watches. Well, the New York Post had a very good point on this, in my opinion. How can anyone trust the CIA to get anything right after this? Fine. The agency finally took a hard look at employee David Rush after he requisitioned and took home 300 kilos of gold and millions of dollars in foreign currency. But it failed to check his faked resume for over 15 years before that. That not only boosted his pay and helped him win promotions, it won him extra leave. This isn't swiping a few pens from the supply closet or stretching out lunchtime 15 minutes. It looks more like grand larceny. It's not clear exactly what Rush was up to, and don't be too surprised if the details remain muddy. But nothing can explain how anyone in the intelligence community can request $40 million in gold bars, quote, for work-related expenses, and just get it. As for the resume, all anyone need to do is check records at another branch of the government, the U.S. Navy, plus at universities whose registrars confirm academic records all the time. What, if anything, is the CIA vetting about its hires? The ones who run America's spy operations and give our leaders intelligence and analysis about the abilities and intentions of the nation's enemies and potential allies. Rush is now in jail on charges linked to the resume padding. He allegedly claimed to have degrees from Clemson University and Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, though he never attended either, per court papers, and also falsely said he'd been a Navy pilot. Did the CIA not even investigate his military record when vetting his security clearance? The failures here are too numerous for this to be a one-off case. The incompetence has to be practically institutionalized. The intelligence community lost a lot of luster after its top officials abused their power to fan the phony Russiagate scandal flames, and then 4 dozen of its best and brightest signed the infamous letter wrongly calling Hunter Biden's laptop a likely Russian disinformation op. But now the nation needs to question the intelligence of anyone working for the central so-called intelligence agency. I thought that was a really good way of looking at it. What does the CIA actually look at when they are hiring you? Not even doing background checks. But this kind of ties in, and the Washington Examiner said this over the weekend. How am I doing? We're doing good. The Democrats should work with J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, to fight fraud. The piece said because healthcare fraud is not new, the Justice Department has had a dedicated healthcare fraud unit for nearly 2 decades. But the COVID-19 pandemic and the healthcare lies that enveloped it have created new vulnerabilities in Medicare and Medicaid. Vice President J.D. Vance has made healthcare a central focus of the Trump administration's anti-fraud agenda. Democrats should work with Vance, but instead are reflexively treating every enforcement action as a partisan attack. Yes, fighting against, think of that, fraud. We reported last week a couple of arrests made in Minnesota. I know the CIA case is a little different, but still worth mentioning. Medicare and Medicaid have always been vulnerable to fraud because they're huge, fast-paying systems in which third parties get money directly for providing services that are often too difficult to document. The pandemic made the problem worse because Washington loosened its rules, moved fast, and relied heavily on remote verification. That was understandable in an emergency, but it also created many opportunities for criminals, as we've seen. Telehealth, home health, hospice, laboratory billing, durable medical equipment, addiction treatment, and Medicaid waivers became attractive targets for crooks. The Department of Health and Human Services Inspector General found 1,714 Medicare telehealth providers whose billing during the first pandemic year posed a high risk for fraud, waste, or abuse. 1,714. Some states, run by Democrats, including California and Minnesota, have also pushed Medicaid dollars into non-traditional services such as housing, food, utilities, and home-based support. Some of these programs may have merit, but when government pays for services that are harder to verify than a doctor's visit or hospital stay, fraud prevention must be stronger, not weaker. These programs become a magnet for fraudsters, particularly in Minnesota, where 15 people were recently charged with stealing more than $90 million for Medicaid-related programs. California has also been a hot spot for fraud, with a 2022 state auditor report finding that the number of hospice agencies in Los Angeles County alone grew 1,500% over the past decade. The auditor concluded that the state's weak controls have created the opportunity for large-scale fraud and abuse. Healthcare fraud is not only a taxpayer concern, though taxpayers have every right to be angry that their money is being stolen. It is also a direct threat to elderly, poor, and disabled people. Patients who need urgent care can be denied services or have them delayed if government records falsely show they are already receiving care elsewhere. A senior citizen who needs hip surgery, for example, may have treatment postponed because fraudulent billing records say he is enrolled in hospice care elsewhere. That is why Vance's task force to eliminate fraud is so important. It did not invent healthcare fraud enforcement. The DOJ and HHS Office of Inspector General have been doing that work for years. So Democrats should work with Vance instead, of course, because it is J.D. Vance. They are fighting these charges, fighting the fraud investigations. Wow, look at all these waves coming in. Thank you, everybody. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Iran. We've got a few things here about Iran. I do have a couple things about New York State. Nothing too crazy. Like I said, we're going to save most of our New York State and budget talks for when Joe Sempolinski joins us tomorrow. Again, that's going to be over Zoom, so not the normal in-studio interview. Not going to be quite as long as normal. So make sure you get your questions in ahead of time if you can. But for either Joe Sempolinski or Wednesday, Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard, or Thursday, Saritha Kamatareddy, who's running for Attorney General. We actually have a piece about her coming up a little bit later on in the broadcast. Okay. We've got a lot coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking, just getting warmed up on this Monday morning edition, and we will be right back.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
To the used to be, before talking to 988.
I felt alone.
I thought seeing hard things was just part of the job. I thought that having a bad day at work meant I was failing. But then I connected with someone at 988.
A real person texted back. Someone listened without judgment.
Now I know. Now I know it's okay to let someone help me too.
And I'm stronger than I thought.
We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988.
We asked a few cycle friends, why do you ride?
You can just shout out to the world and nobody can hear you.
I love going out for miles and miles, hours and hours by myself.
It's a thrill that you are constantly chasing.
It's a way to get free.
I love the twisty road.
It's not about the destination, it's about the ride, right?
Folks that ride should know. At William Attar, we understand you. And if you're ever injured on a motorcycle, we're ready to help. Call 444-4444.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Look at that beautiful view of historic Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Okay, on Iran, the U.S. has launched self-defense strikes on Iran's radar sites as Tehran claims it retaliated by attacking an air base used by the U.S., strikes on Iranian radar and command sites located in the city of Gorik and Keshem, an island located in the Strait of Hormuz, were carried out this weekend in response to aggressive Iranian actions that included the shoot-down of a U.S. MQ-1 drone that was operating over international waters, according to Central Command. U.S. fighter aircraft swiftly responded by eliminating Iranian air defenses, a ground control station, and 2 one-way attack drones that posed clear threats to ships transiting regional waters. Quote, no American service members were harmed. CENTCOM will continue to protect U.S. assets and interests in response to unwarranted Iranian aggression during the ongoing ceasefire. Keshem Island, which is dubbed Tehran's unsinkable aircraft carrier by Western military analysts, is surrounded by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy and is home to an underground missile city. Meanwhile, Iran claimed to have targeted an airbase used by the United States without naming it. Air defense in Kuwait, where a major U.S. base is located, were confronting hostile missile and drone attacks on Monday, the country's army said on social media. Iran carried out the attack in response to a strike on a communications tower in Sirak County, located in the country's Hormuzgan province. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Aerospace Force has since warned that if U.S. aggressions continue, the response will be, quote, entirely different. Brigadier General Majid Aben Al-Azhar, the regime's caretaker defense minister, warned the U.S. Sunday, our fingers remain on the trigger, and new surprises are on the way without divulging anything further. Talks over a peace deal are ongoing, but Secretary of War Pete Hegseth didn't rule out attacks on the regime restarting if there is no deal, saying, quote, our ability to recommence, if necessary, we are more than capable. Our stockpiles are more than suited for that, both there and around the globe. So we're in a very good place. President Trump has once again lashed out at critics who are urging him, to strike a deal just to end the conflict. We've seen people want, who was it that said last week, unconditional surrender? Trump said, Iran really wants to make a deal, and it will be a good one for the USA and those who are with us. But don't the Democrats and various seemingly unpatriotic Republicans understand that it is much tougher for me to properly do my job and negotiate when political hacks keep negatively chirping at levels never seen before over and over again that I should move faster or move slower or go to war or not go to war or whatever. Just sit back and relax. It will all work out well in the end. It always does. That's President Trump. Now we learn, and this is coming from Fox News, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has submitted a letter of resignation to the office of the Supreme Leader. Citing a source, Iran International reported Sunday that the letter stated the president and his government had been excluded from major decision-making in Iran. The report also said the ensuing vacuum has allowed hardline factions within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to take control of key affairs. In the letter, Pezeshkian reportedly wrote that under such circumstances, he is unable to govern effectively or fulfill his legal responsibilities, and for that reason, requested to step down immediately. So giving his resignation letter. But again, the media continues to push as if we are losing this. I'll continue. The outlet said it was unclear whether Supreme Leader Mojabi Khamenei's office would accept the resignation. On Sunday, President Trump described Iranian officials as very tough negotiators and emphasized that the United States is taking a patient approach to securing a broader agreement during an interview with Laura Trump. In April, Trump also said the regime was seriously fractured, citing the country's internal divisions as one of the reasons for extending the ceasefire indefinitely, one day before the previous agreement was set to expire. So the president, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, has submitted a letter of resignation to the Supreme Leader. We also learned that Iran is digging out underground missiles. There's an underground missile base where they were buried by joint U.S.-Israeli strikes during the height of the war. A recent probe of 18 missile facilities hit during the war showed that at least 50 out of 69 tunnel entrances have been reopened since the ceasefire went into effect in April. The fast work indicates that Iran would be poised to fire a lot more long-range missiles across the Middle East if the war restarts. Satellite images capture the rigorous work Tehran has accomplished in just 7 weeks across various missile bases, with digging equipment and large trucks seen excavating the tunnel entrances. Workers at one base located outside Isfahan could be seen filling up more than a dozen craters left behind by U.S.-Israel joint strikes, with 2 entrances cleared by early May. Heavy machines and truckers were also spotted at Iran's missile bases, well, 2 places, on April 10th, just days after the ceasefire went into effect. Iran's rush to restore operation to its missile facilities undermines one of the Trump administration's main goal of the war, to reduce Tehran's arsenal and ability to attack allies in the Middle East. President Trump specifically listed completely degrading Iranian missile capability, launchers, and everything else pertaining to them as one of his 5 objectives for the war. Now, a White House official said, and you know about the Situation Room meeting, that Trump will only make Iran deal that will satisfy all of his red lines. A White House official said the meeting lasted about 2 hours, that Situation Room meeting, saying, quote, "The Situation Room meeting has concluded and lasted approximately 2 hours. President Trump will only make a deal that is good for America and satisfies his red lines. Iran can never possess a nuclear weapon." In a Truth Social post in the late morning, the president indicated he was prepared to make a final determination during the meeting, amid reports that U.S. and Iranian negotiators have reached an agreement for a ceasefire extension contingent on his approval. According to U.S. officials cited in the report, the proposed framework would extend the ceasefire reached in April while opening a 60-day negotiating window focused on Iranian nuclear programs, including the fate of Tehran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium and future enrichment activities. The president emphasized his red lines in the post announcing the meeting, including that Iran must agree it cannot have a nuclear weapon, that the Strait of Hormuz must reopen, that Iran must clear mines in the strait, and that its enriched uranium must be turned over to the U.S. for destruction. Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb. The Hormuz Strait must be immediately open. No tolls for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions. All water mines, bombs, if any, will be terminated. We have removed, through detonation, numerous such mines with our great underwater minesweepers. Iran will complete the immediate removal and or detonation of any mines that are left, which are not many. Ships caught in the strait due to our amazing and unprecedented naval blockade will now be lifted. May start the process of heading home. Say hello to your wives. You remember this from last week. Say hello to your wife's husband, parents, and family for me, your favorite president. The enriched material, sometimes referred to as nuclear dust, which is buried deep underground with virtually collapsed mountains, caused by our powerful B-2 bomber attack 11 months ago, sitting on top of it, will be unearthed by the U.S., which, it is agreed, is the only country, along with China, with the mechanical capabilities of doing so, in close coordination and conjunction with the Islamic Republic of Iran, plus the International Atomic Energy Agency, and destroyed. No money will be exchanged until further notice. The president did not reach a decision on any new deal, according to the New York Times. Okay, we have a couple other things in Iran. I realize I'm running a little late. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
This world is a beautiful place. Protecting it requires balancing our needs with the planet's health. At the heart of this balance are North America's wetlands. These bustling ecosystems are teeming with hundreds of species of plants and animals. This variety of life, known as biodiversity, is an indicator of our ecosystem's health. More diverse ecosystems mean richer soil, cleaner water, and abundant pollination. all vital to our basic needs and the creature comforts we've come to rely on. At Ducks Unlimited, conservation unfolds through collaboration across the continent, striving for solutions that benefit both wildlife habitats and our communities. Join us in shaping a sustainable future for our ecosystems, communities, and economies. Visit ducks.org/wetland-benefits. A public service from Ducks Unlimited.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers for our Monday, a high of 71, about 5 degrees below average, but a very nice day indeed. We'll bottom out, also a touch on the cool side tonight with mid-40s and clear skies, then a high of 73 with additional sun on Tuesday. Gradually warming each day this week, back to 84 by Thursday, 87 Friday, and dry up until that point. We will see the return of some rain chances as we head into your weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Comment from a viewer: Iran is just stalling for time. Who knows what they intend to do once they have regained however many bombs they have left. That's a very good point. I would tend to agree with you that it does seem like a stalling operation. One thing I wanted to mention before we keep talking about Iran, you're going to find this shocking. I know I did. Do you know today, June 1st, would have been Marilyn Monroe's 100th birthday? She was born on June 1st, 1926. Marilyn Monroe would have been 100 years old today. Amazing. All right, so Pete Hegseth says that Trump is laser focused on Iran deal or they face the War Department. They can either do this now through a deal, and we think we're in a good place to make that deal, or they could deal with the War Department, said Hegseth. We are prepared, we're postured even stronger today than we were on day one to address it the way that we have to. But he'd prefer not to, meaning that Trump would rather have a diplomatic resolution. Hegseth repeatedly stressed that Trump remains committed to diplomacy, but only if Tehran agrees to terms Washington considers enforceable and lasting. Any deal that the president is willing to make, he's only going to make if he believes it's a great deal for our country and security of the world. And only one president was willing to lay it on the line and ensure after 47 years that Iran is not capable of having a nuclear weapon. Goalposts haven't shifted at all. Iran knows very, very clearly that our expectations are what they are, and that's on the negotiating team to deliver. They're coming in our direction. The talks have been productive. I think they know where it needs to go, said Hegseth. Our ability to recommence if necessary is that we are more than capable. Now, Iranian lawmakers, meanwhile, reportedly discussed legislation aimed at formalizing Tehran's sovereignty claims over the critical shipping corridor, a position directly at odds with the Trump administration's insistence that the waterway remain open to unrestricted global shipping. Hegseth said the blockade is very much still in place, adding that the strait would ultimately become an open strait, a toll-free strait that the entire world can use. Now, Trump revealed a key Iranian concession and warns that the U.S. will finish it off militarily if need be. So now, said the president, and this was on My View with Laura Trump. So now the agreement says we will not develop or in any way purchase a military weapon. That's a big difference. So we're getting what we want slowly. Very tough negotiators. It takes a long time. I'm in no hurry. If you're going to be in a hurry, you're not going to make a good deal. He said an agreement was preferable because it would allow the Strait of Hormuz to reopen immediately, bringing gasoline prices tumbling down and preventing additional casualties. But if Iran falls short of his terms, we're going to end it a very different way, he said. The U.S. has destroyed the Iranian Navy and Air Force, and Trump accused the media of downplaying American success in the region. He also expressed hesitation about wiping out the entirety of Iran's remaining military because of how long it would take the country to rebuild afterwards. Still, he reserved the right to resume offensive action, saying it could be triggered by the collapse of negotiations or a deal that wasn't going to be good for us. So, of course, and I'm glad he raises the point because the media as we talked about last week, has almost acted as a propaganda wing of the Iranian regime. And you see it with some of our politicians as well, almost giddy, hoping that we will lose. And I keep quoting the New York Times reporter who said, in no uncertain terms, that he did not want to see a win in Iran because it would be politically beneficial to the president. But as I mentioned, the president did tweet out last night, Iran really wants to make a deal, and it would be a good one for the USA and those that are with us. But don't the Democrats and various seemingly unpatriotic Republicans understand that it is much tougher for me to properly do my job and negotiate when political hacks keep negatively chirping at levels never seen before over and over again? That I should move faster, move slower, or go to war or not go to war or whatever. Just sit back and relax. It'll all work out in the end. It will all work out well in the end. It always does. Now, he also roasted CNN over the Iran deal coverage, saying fake news CNN said today routinely that my Iran nuclear deal doesn't talk about nuclear weapons, when actually it states very clearly that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. It then goes on in very strong and lengthy detail to discuss various other aspects of nuclear matters. In fact, that's what most of the agreement is about. CNN and so many other in the fake news media is a low-rating disaster. Even with new ownership, it is unlikely to ever get better. Now, and I think this is a fair question. The New York Post editorial board asks, what will it mean if Trump does take the Iran deal? If President Trump okays whatever Iran deals before him, what will it mean? What Trump and his team describe is very different from the accord the Iranians are publicly outlining, and no version seems to yet have clear enforcement provisions, other than the implied threat that Washington will go back to war or at least a total embargo if Tehran backslides. Other than a complete unconditional reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, the world's unlikely to see any complete on-the-record list of each party's obligation. Iran's leaders don't dare admit that they're doing everything our president demands. Then again, even if the regime does commit on paper to giving up the enriched uranium, Iran has repeatedly proved its promises mean absolutely nothing. For example, the one in the 2015 Obama Accord that Tehran will, quote, ensure the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program, end quote, or any of its other treaty commitments dating back decades to never pursue nuclear weapons. Yes, Trump can and more than likely would do whatever it takes to make Iran give up its nuclear dust, allow regular inspectors of its nuke facilities, etc. But he leaves the White House in January of 2029. Will a president, let's say Gavin Newsom or even J.D. Vance, be as resolute? Our nation will have a weak president again someday, no matter what. It's how democracy works. If Trump takes this deal, Americans will have to trust only that Trump will ensure Iran lives up to it, including all commitments it refuses to make public, and that he has some plan to knock the Islamic Republic back even further than he already has, so that we'll never be in a position to change the original deal. Okay, we're going to get away from Iran, but feel free to weigh in on it. I do have a couple quick updates. I know last week we talked about Dr. Jill Biden saying that she felt that her husband was having a stroke, Joe Biden, during the presidential debate, yet then went on to a campaign rally and then to the Waffle House. Seems a little strange if you thought your husband was in some type of life-threatening situation. But we also learned, and this came out Friday, and I put it aside, but on Friday she said, and I guess it's part of her new memoir, which I have not read, but it's part of her new memoir that she's trying to sell, and that's why Democrats are so upset that she's bringing this up, because they want to focus on the midterms, and instead it's talking about the 2024 election. But she said that Kamala Harris demanded that Joe Biden endorse her immediately, that Kamala Harris didn't want him to wait 20, 30 minutes, wanted it essentially right then after he stepped down from running for re-election. Now, that goes a little bit against my theory, and I still stand by my theory, that this was Joe Biden's way out the door. They said, okay, you don't want me after being loyal to the Democrat Party for 50 years. You don't want me? Okay. Well, good luck winning with this candidate, a candidate that even our own party said wouldn't or shouldn't ever be candidate for president of the United States. That was my thought, the one last kind of power move, if you will, by the former president. But we're going to talk about that and what some have said. We also got a couple of, if we get a chance, some New York State issues, some campaign updates from various candidates throughout the country. All that and much more as we near midterms. It's almost primary day. We got what? It's June 23rd. It's primary day, so keep that in mind. I know there's not, well, if you're a Democrat, you have the comptroller candidate and you have the congressional candidate is up for a primary vote. Then there are some local towns and municipalities that have a Republican primary. Again, that's coming up on June 23rd, so mark your calendar. In the towns of, according to our friends at the Hornell Sun, in the town of Campbell, Corning, Irwin, Lindley, and Rathbone. So you have your primary. Don't worry, we'll remind you. You can't forget about the primary. You got to get out and vote. It's vital to choose, especially your local candidates. We talk about it so often, about how much of a difference your local candidates make in your life. If you are running for office, or you know somebody that's working in office, or you want to know more about somebody working for office, contact me at that number on the bottom of the screen, and we will get an interview scheduled. All right, let's take a break. We got some comments coming in, and when we return, stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
I was the lead gunner of the convoy that we had. While I was suppressing fire, I felt a flick on my upper biceps area. They ended up reconstructing my arm instead of amputating. I don't have full use of it. Right after my recovery, I had to find myself again and see what else I could do to continue my selfless service. The coalition came to a handful of us with an idea of having a nonprofit that solely focuses on those coming back wounded from Iraq and Afghanistan. We would have the opportunity to help others that have been in our boots. Having an organization like the Coalition to Salute America's Heroes, putting me back into working with wounded troops, helped me to process my injury. Life is full of trials and tribulations. Life is full of ups and downs, and it's the way you handle yourself through those trials and tribulations. I'm Sergeant Mary Herrera, and my alive date was November 8th, 2003.
For more information, visit saluteheroes.org.
There, over 50,000 law enforcement officers have been assaulted while on duty. A vast number of these attacks were filmed and uploaded to social media in the pursuit of likes and attention.
What they want to do is film you instead of like, what can I do to help this officer?
Together, we can change this disturbing trend.
If that individual would have hit the right spot, it could have been it for me. Last time I would have saw my wife, my kids.
I'm Mike Solon. Law enforcement officers need your support. If you see an officer under attack, then follow these simple steps in order to help. 1. Call 911 and give the officer's exact location. 2. Ask the officer if you can assist. If the officer accepts, then do whatever you can do to safely help. 3. If the officer declines, then start filming and be a good witness. It's time to stop filming and start helping.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comments from viewers. Bez appeared on a show in which he was being interviewed. He seems to have tamed his nerves so much that he even seemed presidential. Interesting. The Republicans have so many potential candidates, unlike the Democrats, who have nothing to show. That's a very good point. Their roster, if you will, well, let's face it, polling-wise, Kamala Harris is the most recognizable, but that makes sense because she spent $1.5 billion, that's at the low end, $1.5 billion in 107 days. So that makes sense. But Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, for some reason. Mark writes in, it's bad enough, or he also says good morning. Good morning, Mark. It's bad enough to cover up Biden's failing health, but to lie about it like Jill Biden is doing is ridiculous. But on the other hand, it makes the Democrat Party look bad, which is a plus for Republicans. I agree. It is not a very good look, and that's why Democrats are so upset that Jill Biden is bringing this back up, rehashing it. Ken writes in, watching the Sunday propaganda shows never fails to amaze me on how the legacy media and Democrats are heck bent, thank you, on working towards dividing the country and trying to hamstring anything that Trump and the Republicans try to achieve. I could save them billions of dollars in salaries that they pay to the talking head propagandists. They could just broadcast an endless loop repeatedly saying Trump and Republicans are bad and the Democrats are good. That would be enough reinforcement for the sheeple to confirm what they have been endlessly told to believe. The legacy media and Democrats are honest and honorable, and Fox News, Trump, and the Republicans are liars. That's essentially what they are pushing. I would agree, Ken. It is really propaganda. Specifically, the Sunday shows, it's so cliche at this point. The Republican guests are going to be attacked, asked questions, in many cases unfair questions, and the Democrats are going to be given a soapbox to say whatever they want, untrue, most of what they say, but not be called out on it, as we've seen over and over again. Now, President Trump posted several mock-up images of the drone port he hopes to build on top of the White House ballroom. The drone port at the White House ballroom will be perhaps the most sophisticated anywhere in the world. It will safeguard our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., long into the future. Judge Richard Leon should stop playing games with America's security. If anything happens, he will be held responsible for the death and destruction caused to our country. Trump then posted 3 different pictures of the drone port, each showing various UAVs parked at the top of the ballroom roof with armed soldiers guarding the technology. The president has insisted that the drone port is necessary to protect the ballroom and the White House, telling reporters last week that its inclusion would make the security a shield for the Capitol. Despite Trump's insistence, Leon, an appointee of former President George W. Bush, ruled in April that the administration lacked legal authority to build the ballroom without congressional approval. While Leon issued an injunction to halt all above-ground construction of the planned ballroom, the order was itself put on hold by an appeals court, with construction carrying on for now. Along with condemning Leon, Trump also went after Alison Hoagland, the woman who helped the National Trust for Historic Preservation file its lawsuit to stop the ballroom construction, saying, quote, Leon has already created enough problems by allowing top-secret information to be released and exposed based on a ridiculous lawsuit started by a highly litigious woman, serial plaintiff, whose strolling, in her opinion, will be disturbed by the new's desperately needed structure. What will be disturbed by the new, desperately needed structure. In any event, a woman who has absolutely no standing with the event of highly sophisticated and powerful modern-day weaponry, we can no longer defend Washington, D.C. with rifles and pistols alone. This ridiculous lawsuit must be dismissed immediately. All right. But again, saying that Judge Richard Leon should stop playing games with American security. He said that he would be held responsible if there is an attack on the White House. He also said, in light of recent attacks against President Trump's life, including 2 attempts in less than a month, the injunction entered by this court for the benefit of a strolling woman who filed a suit against the East Wing project long before she knew what was going to be built. This is a woman who is a known serial plaintiff throughout Washington, D.C., and was absolutely no standing, must be immediately vacated, and the suit, which is completely embarrassing to our country, must be dismissed. Oh, that was Todd Blanche who said that. This is a terrible, tremendously harmful case to the United States of America and all it stands for. The gunman who opened fire at the White House checkpoint was shot by officers who later died at the hospital, as you recall. We mentioned that a few weeks ago. Trump saying, while giving a tour with reporters, the entire roof is built for military. They have a massive drone capacity. Not only is it drone-proof, if a drone hits it, it bounces off. It won't have any impact. But it also meant as a drone port that would protect all of Washington. The proposed 90,000 square foot ballroom would dwarf the historic White House complex. It's become a flashpoint, as you know. Democrats hate the idea. They'd rather us, I guess, rent those tents outside. So there you go. There's your update on that. Oh, also, how are we doing? Oh, no, we better take a short break. Stay with us. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back. But frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, there's the Corning whistle. Stay with us.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corny. So after, we mentioned this on Friday's show, but after so many of the performers kind of weaseled out, if you will, on the America 250 concert, President Trump has called to replace it with a MAGA rally. I think that's a little exaggeration, but a little bit. We should have a giant Make America Great Again rally for 250. Instead of having overpriced singers who nobody wants to hear, whose music is boring, and yet who do nothing but complain. He added, cancel it. The concerts were scheduled to kick off on June 25th as part of a major event on the National Mall organized by Freedom 250, a Trump-backed public-private entity. He said, I understand artists are getting the yips about performing. So I'm thinking about bringing the #1 attraction anywhere in the world. The man who gets much larger audiences than Elvis in his prime, and the man who some say is the greatest president in history, the GOAT, Donald J. Trump, and to take the place of these highly paid third-rate artists, and artists in quote. Trump said he was ordering aides to assess the feasibility of doing an America is Back rally on the Mall, where he would deliver a speech. I love that he's comparing himself, saying he's bigger, much larger audiences than Elvis, Aaron Presley in his prime. On Friday, artists including country singer Martina McBride and glam rocker Bret Michaels said they were dropping out of the concert series. I will say, and this is not just the fact that they switched their position on this. You know, their agent probably took the money or wanted to take the money. And then when they heard about it, when they got all of this criticism from their far left friends and those in the media, they changed their position. But when I originally saw the lineup, I'm not going to say it wasn't that impressive a lineup to begin with. So to have them back out is kind of even more pathetic on their part. I mean, there's a few names in there, but I mean, is Martina McBride or Bret Michaels, or I don't even remember who else. The remainders of the lineup actually probably have the most name: Vanilla Ice, CNC Music Factory, Flow Rida. Anyway. So, bigger than Elvis, the President of the United States. Also, we've got the UFC fight coming up on the White House lawn. Of course, those on the left keep sharing the footage or the videos or the photos, I should say, of the octagon being set up, saying, what has he done to the White House now? But President Trump said, we're going to have a UFC fight, think of this, on the grounds of the White House. Fast forward from that comment about a year ago, the idea is becoming a reality. Construction crews are building a fight cage on the south lawn for the June 14th fight, and the White House is now dwarfed by a massive arced lighting grid, which the Ultimate Fighting Championship calls the Claw. When the fighters strap on their gloves and climb into the cage, more than 90,000 people will descend on the White House grounds to watch them battle it out. What we know is the construction of the Claw came in view in late May over the top of the White House briefing room, where reporters began taking notice. The massive structure is now nearly impossible to miss, even blocks from the White House. CEO Dana White said that the UFC found a place in Belgium to create the structure. Quote, it's a lighting grid that almost looks like a spaceship, and it goes over the octagon. Shipped in from Belgium to Philly, built it in Philly and tested it, tore it back down and put it on trucks and shipped it to D.C. Now, several events are programmed in the days leading up to the fight, which falls on Flag Day and Trump's, as you know, 80th birthday, including meet and greets with current and former UFC athletes, a Zac Brown band concert, and a ceremonial weigh-in, all culminating with a watch party on the Ellipse. Now, the fight card includes the main events between American Justin Gaethje, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, versus Georgian Eli Tapira in the lightweight title. I don't need to go through all of those. All events are free and ticketed. However, the cutoff to request tickets for the UFC Freedom 250 Fan Fest was May 22nd, according to a last chance email that UFC sent out. A White House official told CNN last month that people are vying for tickets to the event, a third of which are reserved for military members and their families, a third for White House staff and their family, and another third for VIPs. UFC also has 200 tickets to give out on the South Lawn. Dana White told Fox News in an interview that 4,300 people will be on the actual South Lawn for the fight, and most of them will be military. Senior Pentagon leaders are putting together lists of uniformed service members who will be offered the chance to attend the fight, but tickets will only be given to those who meet military body composition standards, according to the guidance memo. There are about 85,000 tickets allotted for the general public at the Ellipse watch party. White told Time magazine in a recent interview that he has invited several professional athletes and celebrities, including Tom Brady, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Jared Leto, Guy Ritchie, Adam Sandler, Mario Lopez, and Jason Statham. In response to those on social media who asked who's paying for it, the White House swiftly responded on X to the UFC. White said the organization would be shouldering the cost of the event. We're eating the whole thing, he said, and adding that the lighting grid was part of the high expense. Mark Shapiro, the president of TKO Holding Group, which owns UFC, said in a separate interview with Sports Business Journal that despite the estimated $60 million cost, the venue is an opportunity for the brand, given the earned media and attention surrounding the massive event. Now, if it rains, a second White House official said that weather is certainly a factor, but the hope is that there'll be a clear forecast. White said he hates having fights outdoors because of the unpredictability, but he said the team will be working with the U.S. military to monitor the weather by the hour and make any necessary changes. If it rains, we're going. If it snows, we're going. The only thing that will stop us is lightning, but we're working with the military. So the military knows the weather 10 days out, and they'll notify us every 2 hours, 10 days out. 7 days out, they'll notify us every hour. The only thing that kills us is lightning, so we could move the event 2 hours earlier or 2 hours after. The only other UFC event that has been held outdoors was in Abu Dhabi in 2010, according to White. Now, the White House has faced some criticism, of course, this coming from CNN, including new guest at Gavin Newsom's press office, who wrote, "Mr. President, we just want lower gas prices." Senator Elizabeth Warren posted a picture of the UFC construction, writing, it might be hard to see from this picture today of the White House, but Donald Trump is very focused on lowering costs. Joe Rogan said on his show, the fight is kind of a gimmick and a security nightmare, but he plans on attending. I'll be there, but I'm not thrilled about it. It just doesn't seem like a wise idea. I don't get what Joe Rogan's deal is lately. At first I thought, that's nice, Trump said, and then I realized it is a gimmick. Life is a gimmick, if you think about it, right? But it's a good gimmick. It's something that will never happen again. Rogan has previously said on his podcast that hosting the UFC fight during the Iran war would be weird. Quote, it's going to be very high security and high stress and weird to have a fight on the White House in the middle of a blanking war. All right, we got to take a short break. Getting ready to wrap up hour number 1. I'm running late, so this is wrapping up hour number 1. We're going to take back-to-back breaks, and then we'll read your comment at the top of hour number 2. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Do you know a veteran in need? After leaving the military, many veterans struggle to find their way home. Because to a veteran, home isn't just a place, it's an idea, a feeling. Nation's Finest understands the challenges veterans face. Through the VA's Supportive Services for Veteran Families program, we help veterans and their families struggling with rent, employment, and other housing-related costs. Today, Nation's Finest operates more than 30 locations in California, Arizona, and Nevada. For more than 50 years, we've helped thousands of veterans in these communities build happy, healthy, and purposeful lives. And our team is committed to supporting those who've served and their families for another 50. To get help, visit nationsfinest.org or call 1-833-468-9676. That's 1-833-468-9676.
Dear Coach. Dear Coach.
Dear Coach, they don't teach you that inner strength is the most important kind of strong. But you taught me that.
They don't teach you how to build confidence in yourself or how to deal with all the pressures all at once. But you taught me that.
First tee was more than golf. It's where I discovered what I'm capable of.
You didn't just prepare me for 18 holes. You were preparing me for every day of my life. Learn more at firsttee.org.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Hi, this is the owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Value days are here, and our prices are lower than ever. Stop by your neighborhood Value Home Centers and spring into savings. Save over 35% on Rust-Oleum 2X Spray Paint and Primer, only $4.97. Tackle your to-do list for less. Thompson's Transparent Waterproofing Stain is now only $24.97. Save $7. Don't miss out on our lowest prices of the season.
Value for the do-it-yourselfer. Do-it-yourselfer.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here On WYDC TV, Big Fox, I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments as we kick off hour number 2. On Sunday, there was a Jewish parade in New York City. Mom Donnie did not attend. I actually saw that. Do you see also that he plans on spending $5.2 million on his propaganda office? But Schumer, Hochul, James, and other Democrats did attend and gave speeches wherein they proclaimed their love for the Jewish community. This love is akin to me speaking at a Democrat rally and saying how much I love them and letting them know that they have my support and vote. Yeah, right. Thank you very much. Coming from a different viewer. Frank, if I was Iran, I'd be trying to run the clock out, waiting for some help from the Democrats. They're fully aware that there's a huge amount of division in our country, and they're waiting for a game changer that would get them a get-out-of-jail-free card, like a successful assassination attempt, Congress or a liberal judge somehow stopping the conflict, the midterms changing the political landscape, and a new Congress stopping the war. Enough bad legacy media coverage that actually does turn enough people against Trump, so he has no choice but to agree to a less than perfect plan. The bottom line is that they know they have friends, meaning Iran knows that they have friends in America, namely the legacy media and the Democrats. I would agree, and we talked about it last week. There was that great piece from the New York Post that said essentially that Iran's most powerful weapon is some of those in the U.S. legacy media. The criminal realization is, as much as I hate to admit it, I think that after Trump finally makes a deal, at some point in time, there will unfortunately be another Democrat in the White House, and Iran will be able to get started on building and delivering a nuclear weapon to America. I would agree with that as well. Mark writes in, it's being sad that some judge is claiming President Trump put his name and doing renovations to the Kennedy Center is illegal. So Trump is washing his hands of the whole place. Yeah, that was unfortunate. He basically said, fine, have it. Let it be destroyed. But back to that other viewer's comment. Ex-mayors joined Hochul, Tish James, and thousands at the New York City's Israel parade, while no-show Mamdani, weirdly, was riding a bike around town in a business suit and no helmet. While Mamdani's instead spent the day touting his 2029 re-election bid. Former mayors Eric Adams and Michael Bloomberg joined the unifying celebration, along with thousands of New Yorkers on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, as did Hochul, the city's top cop, and a few of the other leaders and elected officials from across the state. Bloomberg, a staunch Israel supporter who marched in the parade for all 12 years he was in office, wore blue and white and waved the flag of Israel as he walked beside Letitia James. The crowd started chanting, "We miss you, Mike," and "Jesse for mayor," when they saw the pair marching behind the police department's banner. Tish James last week stood beside... No, did I say Letitia James? I'm sorry, Tish James. That's the police officer. I apologize. Tish last week stood beside her boss, Mamdani, at a press conference about security at the event and said, "It's the mayor's decision not to march, and it's my decision to march proudly." One parade goer shouted at Eric Adams, "The real mayor is here, Mr. Adams. We miss you, Mayor Adams." No show Mamdani, meanwhile, spent his morning on a call-in radio show gushing about how much he loves his job and can't wait to run for a second term. Just months into his first term and more than 3 years from the next mayoral election, Mamdani then went out for a leisurely Sunday afternoon bike ride, bizarrely wearing a white-collared dress shirt, black suit, and dress shoes as he pedaled around without a helmet. Helmets are required for bicycle riders under the age of 14 and strongly recommended by Mamdani's administration, which encouraged their use just last month with a slew of free helmet giveaways. "A safe bike ride is a good bike ride," Mamdani said in a city press release touting the event. "Safe cycling starts with the right gear like a well-fit helmet." The mayor, who is Muslim, has long been a vocal critic of Israel, supporting the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement the country, and not recognized it as the Jewish state, has made no secret of the fact he wasn't showing up to Sunday's parade. He said, quote, "While I will not be attending the Israel Day parade, my lack of attendance should not be mistaken for refusal to provide security or the necessary permits for its safety. I've been very clear. I believe in equal rights for all people everywhere. The principle guides me consistently." Now, Bruce Blakeman, the GOP hopeful for governor, Said, I'm glad he's not here. We don't need a wolf in sheep's clothing. So there you are. So thank you to the viewer who brought that up. A weird day for Mom Donnie. Missing out to wear a suit on the bike it's a weird look. It also said here, where is it? One attendee to the rally said, at one time I thought Bill de Blasio was the worst mayor. This guy, meaning Zohran Mamdani, makes him look like a cupcake. De Blasio was the worst mayor there ever was of time. This guy takes it all away from him. Now, okay, where do we want to go from here? Oh, Scott Bessent, who a viewer had mentioned earlier, looking presidential. He's definitely, I know what you mean by calming his nerves. I saw a little clip of an interview from the Sunday shows, and he did seem calm, cool, calm, and collected. He said he supports the plans to imprint President Trump's face on a $250 bill. Bessent argued that it was necessary for his department to craft a $250 bill with Trump's face and signature on it so that the Treasury could be ready if pending legislation to that effect clears Congress, saying, quote, I think it's fitting. President Trump is the president during our 250th anniversary. This was on Sunday Morning Futures. Calvin Coolidge was the president during the 150th anniversary, and there was a coin printed for him. And I think it's a great celebratory note for a great president. Representative Andy Barr has championed legislation for the president's face to appear on a $250 bill. Quote, we have sketched out what it would look like because we have to prepare way in advance, Bessent explained. And if the legislation passes, then we will do it. If it doesn't, we won't. Now, while Bessent was filling in for Carolyn Leavitt last week, he argued that nothing was untoward about the Treasury Department creating this $250 bill and said it was a non-story. Multiple Democrats have proposed bills to restrict Trump from getting his likeness on American currency. Representative Jimmy Gomez also unveiled legislation in April to block Trump's signature from appearing on the greenback. Now, I don't know if you saw this. I know we have, I would say, some viewers that aren't necessarily what you would call Mike Pence fans. Of course, President Trump's first vice president. Former Vice President Mike Pence said Sunday that President Trump's second administration has departed from traditional conservative principles. Now, Mike Pence is kind of, again, I don't use this term to be so demeaning. It's just the political term for it is kind of a useful idiot, where if he knows if he attacks the president, he will get attention. And that's why he was asked to be on NBC's Meet the Press. He said the administration is no longer committed to the conservative agenda that has defined the Republican Party since the days of Ronald Reagan, and before that, an agenda of American leadership, limited government, free market economics, the right to life. He added that on a number of those issues, the president's been good. I don't think there's any question about the president's popularity. I give him all the credit in the world for the hold that he has on Republican voters. Telling Kristen Welker that if Republicans this fall and in 2028 hold up those time-honored conservative principles, those voters will rally to our cause. Pence said he understands that GOP primary voters want to support Trump-aligned candidates in primaries, but I believe that the overwhelming majority of people in the MAGA movement believes that America is the leader of the free world, believe in limited government, less taxes, less regulations, would reject ideas like nationalization of business and price controls and broad-based tariffs. And at the core of our movement is a commitment to the sanctity of life. The former vice president criticized the Trump administration for not doing enough to restrict abortion pills, saying this administration, we see a desire to relegate the right to life to a state-only issue, to actually have a pro-abortion secretary of HHS who has done nothing to limit the availability of the abortion pill. Pence also warned that the values of Trump's second administration could affect how Republicans fare in the midterm election this fall, asserting that if they win, it will be because Democrats are too radical. Quote, I think in many respects, Republicans have lost our way, but Democrats have lost their mind. And I think the reason that we're going to hold the Senate and we have a real shot to hold the House is because of the extremism of the Democratic Party. I think that he also talked about the weaponization fund. He said it's a bad idea from the start, and I would encourage the administration just to drop it. All right. So Mike Pence saying it's deeply offensive, the weaponization fund. Well, look, I think that the weaponization fund is a bad idea from the start, and I would encourage the administration just to drop it. Look, the Justice Department has the ability to settle cases like they did with a pro-life family who was put upon during the Biden administration, got us a well-deserved 7-figure settlement this week. But let's get rid of this fund. I mean, it's deeply offensive to me that you would have a fund that could even possibly compensate people who assaulted police officers or vandalized the Capitol on January 6th. I think that's broadly held by most Republicans and most Americans, and again saying that Trump, and do you agree with this, Trump has departed from the conservative agenda. There you are. Now, Stephen Collinson at CNN says that Trump's second term risks stalling on multiple fronts. Now, keep in mind, Stephen Collinson and CNN were also the ones that told us that MAGA is leaving the president, that they no longer support the president, and then just last week having to report that, yet again, Trump has a grip on the Republican Party. President Trump is increasingly threatened by a self-made problem. His determination to impose unrestrained personal power, which crushed resistance in its first year back in the White House, is now stirring backlashes that are deepening a moment of political vulnerability. This trend will play out in a week in which his second term is in danger of stalling on multiple fronts. Trump's most grave challenge is finding a way out of the Iran war that strengthens the U.S. and weakens Iran after a relentless American and Israel bombardment failed to crush Tehran's regime. Back home, one of Trump's most controversial moves, a $1.76 billion fund that would compensate supporters convicted of taking part in the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot, is imploding amid a Senate GOP rebellion fueled by anger over the president's instincts. And the anger over the nation's 250th anniversary is intensifying. Trump is furious at artists' boycott that the Great American State Fair concert series, complaining that it's been politicized. In response, he's now planning to open it himself after slamming boring singers and calling for a MAGA rally. This remedy seems likely to deepen the partisan turmoil over what was meant to be a unifying national moment. Well, if he can't get the performers backed out after agreeing. Trump's drive for dominance took an early blow on Friday when a judge ruled that the addition of his name to the Kennedy Center was illegal. The president reacted by saying he ditched his planned renovation of the Performing Arts Institution entirely. So just giving up, throwing his hands in the air and saying, fine, let it be crumbled, let it be destroyed. Clearly, Trump's efforts to find an Iran exit ramp represents a critical national security question. Other uproars might seem trivial by comparison, but these are issues on which he's chosen to invest his power and political capital. So it's no surprise there are raising questions about his priorities at a time when his approval ratings are matching his historic lows. This debate will only be fueled by a huge UFC arena being built on the South Lawn. Arena isn't being built. This is ridiculous. Next to the site of the demolished East Wing. None of this is a welcome news for congressional Republicans who are hampered by a president who seems unwilling to accept ahead of a challenging midterm election that most voters are not buying his vision of an economic golden age. I think we've had enough, right? Of what CNN has to say that, yeah, he's going to stall. That basically it's the end of his presidency as we know it. Wishful thinking, something that they've been reporting on really since he got sworn in his second term and his first term. But it's all over. Yep, he doesn't have any kind of standing anymore. And unfortunately, there are some Republicans like we just had there with Mike Pence and others that play right along with that. But as Tina Brown said, and I thought this was an interesting point, Democrats are getting it wrong again. After Trump's 11th hour endorsement of Texas Attorney General and all-in Trump supporter Ken Paxton, who was impeached for multiple charges of abuse of office, this is coming from far left Tina Brown, to beat John Cornyn, I don't want to go through all that. And yet liberal cable heads deconstructing the results keep recycling the point that somehow this was good news. Millions of dollars will now have been diverted from other Republicans to defend a Senate seat that for 4 terms has been occupied by the beloved party elder John Cornyn. Paxton was already on a roll in his victory speech, immediately branding his Presbyterian minister opponent, or Sumerian opponent, James Telfrico, Six-Gender Jimmy, and Tofu Telrico. Of course, As all the pundits tell us, Trump's base love him. In using the term, I suspect they will subliminally conjure dated images of Viking-horned, bare-chested QAnon shaman storming the Capitol. Today, the same lawless horde is now not only pardoned, but have access to Trump's new $1.7 billion anti-weaponization slush fund. The fact that the comatose turtle, former Senate leader Mitch McConnell, has finally emerged from political hiding to denounce the outrage of a cop-bashing mob getting a financial payout is no threat to Trump. McConnell can exhume some principles because he isn't running again. Trump resident. Why am I going through all this? I don't know. If there is any message that crystallizes the 250th anniversary of the U.S., it is not that America has changed, but that Trump has changed America. There will be no snapback when he's gone. Even as his approval ratings tank and the country is hurting, it feels as if his base has become wider and deeper and represents a new national state of mind. Turned on our phones, mesmerized by money, high on idolatry of the big flashy win, we're getting used to the erosion of the rule of law, the threats to free speech, the banishment of government watchdogs, and the chasm of inequality. Wow. After 10 years of Trump bludgeoning the first principle of the American experience, 10 because I don't count the disappearing ink of Biden's lame tenure when every headline was a Trump indictment, scandal, or toxic blast from the exile in Mar-a-Lago, Trump has refashioned the country in his image. There you go. All right. What do we got? Oh, we're going to talk a little bit about Dr. Jill Biden here in just a little bit. So stay with us. I'm running really, oh my goodness. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
If anyone knows the joy of rescuing animals, it's me. Just ask my rescues, who are all very important members of my family. Your life can also be forever changed by adopting a shelter pet. And it's not just about happiness your pet gets from finding a loving home, but that which you'll get from bringing them into your life. The heroes at American Humane have been helping animals for more than 140 years, whether it's rescuing animals caught in disasters, ensuring the safety of animals stars on screen, or protecting our planet's endangered species. They go above and beyond to further their mission and make the world a kinder place for animals. Please consider adopting a shelter pet and support American Humane. You can learn more at americanhumane.org.
For years, I thought it was just stress. But then it felt like I was stuck in a state of panic, obsessed with worry that something bad would happen if I didn't complete endless rituals. I realized I couldn't solve this on my own. So I made the call. I found a doctor who diagnosed me with OCD. Little by little, she's helping me manage my symptoms. Now I'm able to live more in the present.
Mental health care works when you make the call.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers for our Monday, a high of 71, about 5 degrees below average, but a very nice day indeed. We'll bottom out, also a touch on the cool side tonight with mid-40s and clear skies, then a high of 73 with additional sun on Tuesday. Gradually warming each day this week, back to 84 by Thursday, 87 Friday, and dry up until that point. We will see the return of some rain chances as we head into your weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Some viewer comments regarding the forgiveness of the alleged rioters. It's only fair to remind people that Biden even went so far as to give a blanket pardon to treasonous Hunter. Yeah, and it was a blanket, how many years was it? Like 10-year window of any crimes that he may have committed. Ken writes in, sorry, I forgot to put my name on my previous comment. I'm Amdani not walking in the Jewish parade. I may be mistaken, but when he was campaigning, I'm positive that I heard him say that he would attend religious events, regardless of his faith. Now he says that during his campaign, he said he would not be attending religious events. Yes, Interesting. Well, clearly did not. Now, Jill Biden's memoir, and this came out on Friday, says that the Kamala Harris demanded for Joe to endorse her quickly. After Joe told Harris that he wasn't going to run for re-election, she said, "Oh my goodness, Joe, are you sure?" When Joe Biden suggested waiting until the next morning to make an endorsement statement, Harris insisted, "I want it sooner." After the president said he would call her back when I figure this out, the vice president said, "Could you do it soon, say in 20 minutes?" At this point, Jill Biden writes, she walked out of the room, apparently unable to bear it any longer. Joe Biden, well, we know all about that. The following week, the future First Lady defended her husband on a conference call with supporters, saying in reference to Harris, with what he cares about, what he fights for, what he's committed to, you get up there and call him a racist without basis? Oh yeah, she didn't like Kamala Harris because of that. And let's face it, that was her claim to fame. She had a big debate performance just once where she called Joe Biden a racist. So her poll numbers went up a little bit, and she wasn't, or the people around her weren't smart enough to realize that when you have a good debate performance, the next debate, everyone's going to attack you. And she failed miserably in the second debate. Of course, she never actually made it to the primaries before she dropped out. After Joe Biden secured the Democratic nomination, Jill reportedly came out strongly against choosing Harris as his running mate, complaining, "There are millions of people in the U.S. Why do we have to choose the one who attacked Joe?" Yeah, calling Joe Biden a racist at the time. Now, former Jill Biden spokesman claims the ex-First Lady is trying to change the tape after she said that she felt that Joe was having a stroke. And we know it's laughable. The real takeaway I get from that is that she said, "I've never seen him like that before, and we'll never see him like that again," or "I've never seen him like that again." Okay. Former Jill Biden spokesman Michael LaRosa accused the former First Lady of trying to change the tape after she revealed in a recent interview that she feared President Biden was having a stroke during the debate performance. They're trying to change the tape in people's mind about who she is. That's why she's sort of changing her tune a little bit about a reaction in real time. She wants to say, "Oh no, my reaction was just a concerning, and it was just as severe as everyone at home. I was shocked." He said that Jill was the face and the voice of the initial reaction for the country, and that if she had reacted at the time with the sentiments she later shared with CBS, it would have been a more human response. "You did such a great job, you remember. You answered every question. You knew all the facts." I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched, I thought, "Oh my gosh, she's having a stroke, and it scared me to death," said Joe Biden last week. Republicans pointed to Biden's debate performance as evidence that he had declined too much to continue as the nation's commander-in-chief, while Democrats maintained the debate itself was an outlier, a momentary lapse. Even as Jill Biden's comments seem to continue to make that case almost 2 years later, Alex Thompson, an Axios reporter, shed doubt on her characterization, saying Biden aides told me and Jake Tapper that they had seen him act that way before and after. Those moments became more difficult to predict and conceal. And that was my point. The takeaway wasn't that she thought he had a stroke, in my opinion. The takeaway was that she said she had never seen him act like that or hasn't since. I don't believe it. All right, we got to take a short break. Oh, no, hold on. I am going to run late. Sportscaster Stephen A. Smith tore into Jill Biden for covering up her husband while thinking he had a stroke. I still don't believe it, because you don't go directly to the doctor. You go to a rally, and then you go to a Waffle House. Smith ripped into Jill's stunning admission, saying that that last part really, really disturbed me, and it really bothered me, said Stephen A. Smith. Just after the debate, Jill actually congratulated her clearly befuddled husband during a campaign stop, gushing that, "Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts." Smith said at the time his wife comes out and she applauds his effort. And she said he was wonderful and he answered all the questions and all this other stuff. That only gives fodder to the narratives that Democrats are dishonest, not forthcoming, not open, and always trying to find a way to manipulate and dictate a narrative. They had an opportunity to push him out and to position themselves to have a primary where a viable candidate to go against Donald Trump would have happened the right way. I'm not trying to say that Kamala Harris was the wrong candidate. What I'm trying to say, however, is that the process that she had to endure was wrong because by bypassing a primary and ultimately being inserted as a Democrat nominee. Cuomo admitted that Democrats defending Biden was all a crock and that anyone who saw him knew that this was the case. I think it cost us a great amount of credibility, especially the Democratic Party, which is supposed to be the party of truth and courage. Did you know that? The Democratic Party is supposed to be the party of truth and courage, said Governor Cuomo, former Governor Cuomo. Smith said, but on too many occasions, people want to go out there and bloviate and spew venom in the direction of the man in the White House. When you look at the Democrat Party and you talk about credibility and what they're lacking, that why is profound. You're lacking credibility because you focused on the wrong things. All right, enough on that. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
The only more American than apple pie and 4th of July is baseball. This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
Think buying fake products is harmless? Think again. Think fake cosmetics are tested and safe? Think again. Think that medicine you can buy off social media is high quality? Think again. Counterfeits are made in unsafe conditions, potentially using hazardous and even lethal ingredients that could harm you and others. Each year, billions of dollars worth of counterfeit products are sold in the U.S. I smell big crime. Think about it. If you don't know where the products came from, how could you know where the money goes? You're smart. Buy smart. Go for real.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So let's go to a few things here on New York State issues. First, Jamie Meggs at the Wall Street Journal said electricity prices are spiking. Our power grid is struggling, and it's all Jimmy Carter's fault. Well, it's not all the late former president's fault, but he got the ball rolling. According to a January 2026 report that the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, the overall resource adequacy outlook for the North American bulk power system is worsening. Transition, we aren't making enough electricity. The risk of power outages has risen in recent years, and the January 2026 report concludes even as consumers pay more. And we talked about some of the changes in the New York State budget that finally passed. Some of the changes that were made in relations to the climate policy that was costing us so much that it's still going to be a high cost. But rising demand from data centers. Yeah, and I saw something interesting online about that. We hear about these data centers, this crypto mining, and now that they need these huge buildings for AI and the like, it's interesting that you don't hear about global warming as they tear down forests and tear down all this land to build these huge data centers. But I'll continue. Rising demand from data centers, EVs, and home heat pumps is partly responsible. But a bigger problem is how we make electricity today. For decades, federal and state policies nudged operators to retire dependable coal, gas, and nuclear plants and replace that with wind and solar power. These variable, weather-dependent sources increase the complexity of planning and operating a reliable grid. Having a stable, robust power grid is essential to our economy and national security, not to mention to every citizen's well-being. So why did the U.S., along with most of Europe, pursue a policy that makes our power grid more vulnerable? The answer lies in the 70s during the dreary presidency of Jimmy Carter. The U.S. economy was struggling after a series of Middle East oil shocks. Many experts thought the world had reached peak oil. In his famous Malaise speech, President Carter responded with a grand policy to wean the U.S. off of energy imports. The country must increasingly rely on other sources of power which are renewable, he told Congress, including solar, wind, and biomass. Unlike fossil fuels, these would never run out, he noted. Foreign nations couldn't embargo the wind and sun. At the time, Carter's policy was driven less by environmental concerns than by economic nationalism. Only later would the term renewable become lazy shorthand for environmentally friendly or low carbon. Thus began a 5-decade experiment in industry policy. Over that time, the federal government has spent many tens of billions of dollars on a bewildering mix of credits, mandates, and subsidies, boosting wind, solar, and inefficient biofuels made from corn and soybeans. Most states enacted similar programs. Our policymakers believed that they knew best what kind of energy the U.S. needed and confidently yielded carrots and sticks to make power companies comply. So what this boils down to, again, Mr. Miegs, said it all adds up to a good lesson in the folly of industrial policy. But where do we go now? No one is going to tear down all those wind turbines and solar panels. Utility-scale batteries are coming down in price and do help smooth out swings in solar output. Of course, that's yet another infrastructure expense needed to make wind and solar work. A new report from NERC predicts grid reliability will be a bit better than expected this summer, partly due to the growth in such battery storage systems. Many promising nuclear projects are in the works, and geothermal power shows promise. But whatever direction our power grid takes, let's hope it's guided by engineering and economic reality, not politically motivated wish casting. And let's drop that obsolete term, renewable. All right, we got to take another short break here. As I mentioned on Thursday, we're going to be talking with Saritha Kamatareddy. She is running for Attorney General. She, according to the Times Union, is criticizing our current Attorney General. Should come as no surprise. That's what happens when you campaign. But Saritha Kamatareddy, a former federal prosecutor, is challenging Letitia James in this year's election, is criticizing Letitia James for saddling taxpayers with nearly $20 million in contracts for private law firms that did work. Kamatareddy says the office is opposed. Said the office is opposed to handle. Kamatareddy, a Republican who formerly worked as a federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of New York, also criticized the Democratic incumbent Attorney General for supporting a measure inserted in last year's state budget by Democrat lawmakers that established a $10 million fund that could be used by James or other state officials to cover legal fees for actions taken against them by President Trump's administration. Kamatareddy said Letitia James runs one of the largest law firms in New York. She has more than 700 assistant attorney generals, a vast majority of whom are assigned to civil matters. They've gotten a raise every single year since 2019 and fancy new offices in downtown Manhattan. Yes, she's outsourced $20 million of her work to expensive private law firms at the taxpayers' expense. That's a racket. Now, Philip Jerez James, which is Letitia James' campaign manager, issued a statement in response to the criticism. A former chief of staff at the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration has spent her career turning, this meaning Kamatareddy, has spent her career turning a blind eye to the Trump-backed right-wing special interests working overtime to strip New Yorkers and all Americans of their fundamental rights. Wow. Kamatareddy, a Harvard Law School graduate who began her legal career as a clerk for now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh when he was judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals, also served as counsel to the National Commission on the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill. She's a private law practice for Holtzman Vogel, a law firm headquartered in Washington, D.C. The statement issued by Kamatareddy's campaign also asserted that public records show roughly 145 donors affiliated with private law firms have contributed about $23,000 to political funds on James' behalf. The GOP challenger additionally cited more than $500,000 has been paid to Davis Polk and Wardwell, a law firm hired by the Attorney General's office to defend a sexual harassment lawsuit. Commodore Reddy also cited more than $1.4 million in taxpayer funds that have been paid to Munger, Tolles, and Olson, a national law firm with offices in L.A., San Francisco, and Washington that has represented James' office in a federal grand jury investigation pursued by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Albany. Quote, this includes paying for a former U.S. Solicitor General, Donald Varelli, who charges $1,650 per hour to argue the case in court, even though Ms. James' office already has another former U.S. Solicitor General, Barbara Underwood, on its payroll. When public employees get sued for their work, it's the job of the Attorney General's office to defend them. Our police officers, our nurses, our teachers all must rely on government lawyers for their legal defense. But apparently that's not good enough for Ms. James. When she got sued, she hired expensive white shoe law firms and sent the invoices to the rest of us. Taxpayers have a right to be outraged. So again, she will be joining us. We'll ask her about this. She'll be joining us on Thursday's broadcast, so don't miss that. Now on tomorrow's show, we'll be talking with former Congressman, current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. He's going to be zooming in from Albany. As you know, there's a lot going on in Albany with the recently passed budget. He's going to be joining us tomorrow, so please get your questions sent ahead of time for him. And then on Wednesday, Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. And again, on Thursday, Saritha Commodore Reddy running for Attorney General. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Some people who need Social Security disability benefits go to their hearing alone and get turned down. Not every lawyer will appeal a denial after your hearing. I will. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. I help people win benefits by appealing their denials, including in federal court. But your time to appeal is limited, so call my office now.
Lockman & Gordon, 1-800-698-0567. Kids Time. Ask them how they're feeling and listen.
Did you know that listening to music, enjoying art, or simply holding hands can boost your cognition? Trying new foods, making friends, and being curious helps too. Just like me, you want to maintain your brain health for as long as possible. I'd like to share with you insights that can make a difference. I'm Kevin Jameson, President of the Dementia Society of America. I'm excited to offer you our free guide. Inside, you'll find 10 building blocks to better brain health, along with facts about dementia, care planning, and how experts make a diagnosis. You'll learn what dementia is and isn't. The Dementia Society of America is a nonprofit organization, and we are ready to answer your questions. Get your free copy of the guide by visiting 1-800-DEMENTIA.org or by calling 1-800-DEMENTIA. You want to live life to the fullest? I do too, and I'm confident that our free guide can help.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Rick writes in, says, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. Well, let's see. First, Trump can't get his $1.76 billion to pay off the January 6th criminals. They already got their gift. Trump can't have his name on the Kennedy Center. His handpicked board has to approve a renovation plan that allows the center to still hold nonstop activities and performances while the renovations... Hold on real quick. Looks like we might be frozen for just a second. There we go. Heck, they're erasing his name off things while he's still in office. Nothing like getting a head start. Doesn't Trump have more to worry about than try to control what the Smithsonian exhibits? For that matter, our history is what it is. Embrace it. Don't hide it. Trump is good at having things redacted, so to speak. Don't redact our history. Stick to redacting your own messed up life. I see performers are bailing on Trump for the Trump America's 250th. Performers really don't want to get caught up in Trump's baloney. Fine with me, not my cup of tea. Wouldn't watch it anyway. Throw the Stones, Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, Neil Young, Eric Clapton, and some old Black Sabbath in there, I'm in. Trump show will be like watching the Super Bowl halftime show. Very few watch, and those who do don't know what they said. Have an awesome week, Rick. Thank you, Rick. Now, going to New York State issues. Albany lawmakers are preparing for a mad dash on Trump funding, redistricting, entering the national redistricting war, considering new rules for pricing goods, and reviewing ticket scalping laws are on the agenda in Albany this week. This is the last week of session. The annual legislative session is scheduled to end Thursday, but lawmakers acknowledge that it may stretch into Friday. Many members of the state Senate and Assembly are eager to return to their home districts in time to campaign in primary elections on June 23rd. Normally, the Capitol operates around two peaks of activity, the passage of the budget in late March and early April, and the close of session in June. Because this year's budget was only adopted last week, nearly 2 months after the April 1st deadline, everything is crashing together. Blair Horner, a senior policy advisor, said it crowds out the opportunity for lawmakers to tackle controversial items after the budget because there simply won't be enough time. Last year, 920 bills passed either the Senate or Assembly during the last week of session. Roughly half of all legislation that moved. Lawmakers have so far advanced more than 1,000 bills through the houses this year. Horner said he'd be curious to see how the protracted budget talks affect the final tallies. Lawmakers acknowledge that some of their priorities, like new regulations on e-bikes, won't get done because of the truncated timetable. Boy, I'd like to see something done about those e-bikes, wouldn't you? It's unpredictable, said Assembly Minority Leader Ed Raw. He worries Democrats will pass bills that increase costs for businesses and consumers, saying, quote, things that you think are dead come back to life. Things that you think are happening end up not happening. So I think we want to all get out of town before we do anything that is going to make New Yorkers' lives more unaffordable. So it's things to look out for this week. Redistricting, responding to that Trump fund. We saw this, I think, in California as well, where they're saying if you get any money from that anti-weaponization fund, it will be taxed at 100%. Plastic reduction and bottle deposits. Environmental organizations are hoping to convince lawmakers to pass a bill requiring companies to reduce the amount of plastics they are using in their packaging. We've talked about that in the past. Surveillance pricing. Some Democrats are hoping to pass a pair of bills cracking down on the surveillance pricing, which uses an algorithm to change the price of a product based on consumers' personal data. And then ticket scalping, a state law that allows tickets to concerts and sporting events to be resold on places like StubHub, is expiring. And a Hudson Valley lawmaker is again hoping to increase consumer protection as it is renewed. Now, some of the takeaways from the budget, and we talked about this extensively last week, but this was the latest budget in 16 years. The delay was largely a product of Kathy Hochul's quote-unquote negotiations. You recall a few weeks ago she said it was all done. And, of course, Carl Hastie said absolutely not. But Hochul did get her way. It was another successful budget cycle as she notched major policy wins on nearly every priority issue. She pushed through measures meant to reduce auto insurance rates over protests from the powerful State Trial Lawyers Association. She saw no real opposition to efforts to increase access to child care and mandate pre-kindergarten statewide. She got the legislature to largely capitulate on perhaps the most contentious issue, delaying parts of the state's landmark climate laws. And Hochul, who faces a re-election challenge from Bruce Blakeman, managed to fend off calls for increased income tax on wealthy New Yorkers. Instead, the budget enacts a tax on second homes in New York City worth at least $5 million. The tax, along with the child care expansion and billions of dollars in aid for the city, were also wins for Mayor Mamdani. The budget is largely negotiated behind closed doors, as we know, and to add to the powerful dynamic, if negotiations go past April 1st, members of the legislature don't get paid until a final budget is approved. Some of Hochul's policy wins, such as changes to the climate law, were proposed well into the process. This is the fifth budget that's been late under Hochul. Some lawmakers are pushing back. The governor's gaming it to her advantage. She could, if she wanted to, work to have on-time budgets, but she uses her power in the budget to have non-budget policy objectives. The public deserves the right to know that the governor's proposed before it gets voted on. It's their money. Yes, we talked about this in the past, the lack of transparency. It would be nice if we knew what they were voting on. It would be nice if our representatives knew what they were voting on before it came to their desk. Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie said the governor refused to get into the money details until legislators agreed on her policy issues. I'm never doing this again, he said. Budgets are supposed to be about money, not policy. It's unclear what that means for next year. So what's next? The late budget also means less for the Senate and Assembly to pass other legislation, as I mentioned, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that. As I mentioned, the session is over as of Thursday. One big victory, and this is something that Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, I'm sure, is very excited about because he's been such a proponent of this. The death gamble legislation, which provides benefit protection for state corrections officers in the event of their death, has been signed into law by Governor Hochul as part of the 2026-2027 executive budget. This new law modifies the in-service death benefits for members of the New York State and local employees retirement system employed as state corrections officers and others in the Section 89 retirement plan. Under this reform, the in-service death benefit will reflect the value of the pension reserved as if the member had retired on their date of death. New York State Corrections Officer and Police Benevolent Association, the union representing corrections officers and sergeants, said NYSCOBA leadership extends its sincere appreciation to Governor Hochul, Senate Majority Leader Andrew Stewart Cousins, Speaker Carl Hastie, and their colleagues in the legislature for hearing our concerns and seeing through this critical new law that emphasizes protecting corrections officers and their families. Our leadership also thanks DOCS Commissioner Daniel Marticello III and his team for their continued support and partnership in helping advance this important legislation. Special recognition is extended to Assemblywoman Stacey Pfeiffer Amido and Senator Robert Jackson, sponsors of the death gamble legislation, for their steadfast advocacy and commitment to advancing this critical NYSCOBA member benefit. The death gamble law eliminates the financial penalty placed on officers who continue working beyond retirement eligibility by ensuring beneficiaries receive pension benefits as if the members had retired the day before death rather than being limited to a standard 3 times salary death benefit. This important reform provides greater financial security to the families of corrections officers and security hospital treatment assistants who dedicated their career to public service. All right, and I know that's one that we've talked with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano about a lot on this program. And we're excited to hear that this was finally passed. All right, we got to take a short break. Man, this show's going fast. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
I'm Grace. I'm Ida, and I lived in California. Timmy was just a puppy when I moved in. He's a emotional support animal. I had Missy, who was 15 years old and blind. Likes the people, he likes to greet all the people. All the employees are happy to see him. I feel that my pets are very welcome here. I feel very welcome here. I think it's great.
Parents, we tend to react most when our kids misbehave. But did you know praising your kids 4 times for every time you correct them can transform their behavior and your relationship? And with these colorful praiselets from Boys Town, the 4-to-1 rule is a breeze. Visit parenting.org/praise to see how it works. Request your own free praiselets and explore other great ways to teach love with praise. Because every kid deserves to hear they're doing great.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers for our Monday, a high of 71, about 5 degrees below average, but a very nice day indeed. We'll bottom out, also a touch on the cool side tonight with mid-40s and clear skies, then a high of 73 with additional sun on Tuesday. Gradually warming each day this week, back to 84 by Thursday, 87 Friday, and dry up until that point. We will see the return of some rain chances as we head into your weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Ken writes in, Letitia James needed a backup plan for when she finally gets booted out. She is preparing her future employment opportunities with taxpayer money. That's a good point, Ken. Thank you very much. And her opponent, Sritha Kamanatureddy, running for Attorney General on the Republican ticket, will be joining us on Thursday. I see, we're going to get back to New York State issues, but I see yesterday on Sunday morning, Jill Biden, who we were mentioning earlier, who said she thought her husband was having a stroke during the presidential debate, said, I was certain Kamala Harris was going to win. She said on this interview. Even the host of the program, Rita Braver, said, "You were?" Dr. Biden said the excitement for her in the crowds, and I mean how people rallied around her, I truly felt that she was going to win. I was shocked she didn't win because I think she would be a good president. The former First Lady added that I went to bed on election night and I just couldn't believe that she had lost. Really? Now we learned that she didn't really connect with voters. They wasted a lot of money. She still couldn't win. One source said at the time that she was a, we'll say, bad candidate, and Trump made her look worse than Hillary Clinton, adding that Joe Biden got pushed out for an empty pantsuit. At least Biden beat Trump, and Hillary Clinton had more, we'll say, guts than either of them. All right. I just saw that. I did not catch her interview on Sunday. Interesting piece from the New York Post editorial board saying mafia-like unions are pummeling New York, and the political elites are in league with them. The obscene new contract for 22,000 unionized city hotel workers will give housekeepers a $77,113 starting salary, higher than cops or teachers. The Hotel Association deal with the powerful Hotel and Gaming Trades Council averted a strike threat that had already spooked visitors who were thinking of coming here for America 250 celebrations and the FIFA World Cup. The hotel owners could afford it because they've worked with the unions to get politicians like City Council Speaker Julie Menon to hamstring any competition from new hotels, non-union ones, and Airbnb, all of which reduces tourism, undercutting the rest of the city. But the reason I bring this up is it's the support of the unions. Time and again, regular folks lose as these labor mobs feast because elected public servants work against the public interest. Forget about Hochul's claim that she stood up against the Long Island Railroad union's blackmail. In the end, they got most of what they wanted. And in an indictment of the state of the Republican Party, only Long Island Assemblyman Michael Fitzpatrick voiced opposition to their Tier 6 pension giveaway. Hochul's GOP challenger, Bruce Blakeman, was largely silent, that is, when he wasn't shilling for the Long Island Railroad union goons. And Menon and the rest of the council leaped to please the hotel workers union. The unions offer campaign cash, endorsements, and well-paid volunteers to canvass for the politicians who carry their water. Once a drive for social justice, the labor movement has become a corrupt special interest that drives ever-growing injustice, a cancer on society. All right, we got a couple other things before we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So get your last second comments in, and we'll be right back.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Thousands of North Atlantic right whales used to swim along the east coast of the United States and Canada. Collisions with ships and entanglement in fishing gear are killing these magnificent animals every year. They could go extinct in your lifetime. But there's hope. If we act now, before it's too late, join Oceana to save North Atlantic right whales from extinction.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Oh, by the way, two-time loser Curtis Sliwa is eyeing another New York City mayoral run in 2029. addressing a group of students at Stanford University on May 22nd. When someone asked, "Would you run again?" he said, "I was there speaking about the dangers of AI, and many of the students there followed last year's campaign intently, and some urged me to run. I said, I'm certainly factoring that in. I certainly would love to be able to run for mayor of New York City again against Zohran Mamdani and anyone else who's running." Obviously, it's early in the process now, but if you were to say, is it likely you'll run again? Absolutely. What would prevent me from running? I don't think anybody knows more about the city of New York than yours truly when it comes to subways and streets, public safety, quality of life, homeless people, and emotionally disturbed persons who are not being cared for. Now, as I mentioned in the 6 o'clock hour, taxpayers are on the hook for $5.2 million to pay the swollen salaries of the information ministers in socialist New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's new City Hall propaganda bureau, a staggering 175% more than first thought. It's barely been open for business for a month, but the Office of Mass Engagement has already seen its headcount balloon 186% from 14 to 40, with $5,123,000 earmarked for salaries, according to the city's recently released executive budget. The total is more than what city agencies like the Board of Corrections, Community Affairs Unit, or Office for People with Disabilities get in their entire budget. Wow, that's just to push out that propaganda. Now, on some campaign issues, you may have seen there's more scandal for Graham Plantner sending those racy texts to women, not his wife, and getting a lot of criticism for sending his wife out there to talk about it. She said she's outraged that it was released. She was giving that information to his campaign so they could properly vet him. People familiar with the matter, said Plantner's wife, said that she found the explicit messages early in their marriage in the spring of 2025. The admission to sending the messages came as some aides were conducting opposition research on their own candidate. The aides' opposition's research on Plantner came as the campaign had been preparing for a major rally. A campaign official explained that aides ultimately decided the texts were a private matter that were being handled by a couple in marriage counseling. Gentner explained in a statement that she had thought she was confiding in an aide she considered a friend, and that she and her husband did the hard work that marriage requires. We went to counseling, we were honest with each other in ways that weren't easy, and we came through it. Not in spite of how much we've been through, but because of how much we love each other and the life we've built. Now, even Cory Booker saying on ABC's This Week that, yes, I have concerns about Mr. Plantner. The guy has questions to answer, and that's what campaigns are for. But when I go all over New Jersey and see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans losing their health care and millions more seeing their health costs go up, as I have families who say they can't afford gas for their car and child care for their children, I know that so much is riding on Democrats taking control of the Senate that this election, if we do get the votes necessary to take care of the House and the Senate, we will continue to have an out-of-control president. Okay, so he is even concerned. Some are calling him a, quote, scumbag and torching him for letting his wife address the scandal. Really crummy of you to put her in this position in the first place, dude, and now you're making her answer for you? Just a pure scumbag right through to the core. A real man doesn't make his wife come out and make a public statement about your scandal. You should be out front making a statement, not your poor wife who has suffered enough from your actions. You are a coward. Well, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you for all the great comments. We'll be back, as I said, on tomorrow's program. Fan favorite, former Congressman, Colonel Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. So join us every weekday morning, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.
Don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
What would
you do with free gas for a year? Would you take the long way home? Take a road trip with your best friend? Or find somewhere you've never seen before? Because sometimes the best memories aren't planned. They're the ones waiting at the end of the road. Enter to win free gas for a year through the Quick Fill Fueling Discovery Summer Giveaway. Get ready for endless adventures ahead.